In this video, we'll consider using cross tabulation to summarize categorical data. There are two functions, table and xtabs, in R that can be used to create cross tabs of data. The dataset that we'll use for illustrative purposes is one that is available in the Mass library. That's the library associated with the Venables and Ripley book on S and R. In this data frame, we have a record of the number of incidents based on different types of ship, year of construction, and the period under which they were being operated. Our first step is to make the Mass package available so that we can access the dataset. There are a couple of ways we can do this, one of which is to use the function require. So what we do with this function is specify the name of the package that we want to load. So we just press enter, and R helpfully tells us that it's loaded the package Mass. So the data frame that we're interested in is stored in an object called ships. So let's say we're interested in looking at the first 5 rows of that data frame. So the commands we would use here is we start off with the name of the object, data frame in this case, which is called ships, and then we use the square brackets to indicate that we want to pick out specific rows and columns from the data frame. So if we start off with 1:5, this is shorthand for creating a sequence between 1 and 5, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the first 5 rows, and then we put in the comma and leave a blank after this comma to indicate that we're interested in all of the columns of the data frame. So we press enter, and here we can see the first 5 rows of data points for this particular data frame. So let's say we're interested in working out how many observations there are in this data set for each of the ship types, which is stored in the column ship. First way we're going to look at this is to use the function table. So what we specify with table is the name of variables that we're interested in cross tabulating. So our data frame is called ships. If we want to pick out the first column, in this case, which is the type of ship, we write $ followed by the name of the column. So this tells R that we want to extract this particular column from our data frame. So as we can see here, it's a pretty straightforward table that's been created, and for this data set we've got 8 observations on each of the 5 types of ship, A, B, C, D and E. Let's say we're interested in seeing this broken down by the year in which the ships came in service. We can extend this previous command, so up arrow to get the previous command back. So if we put a comma and then add another column from this data frame, so here we've got ships $say year, and submit this. Now we've got a two-way contingency table specifying how many ships of each type we've got data on for each of the 5 years in which they came into service. So if we wanted to do things slightly differently, there's a function called xtabs which produces similar tables but with a little bit more polish and in a slightly different way to the function table. So let's start taking a look at xtabs. So if we want to create the first table where we're summarizing the number of ships of each type, well, the way xtabs works is it uses a formula to specify which variables we want to put together into the contingency table. So formulas in R are separated by this tilde character. So if we're just interested in counting the number of times each type of ship occurs, we do tilde type. Now what we need to do is to specify which data frame to look into to find this particular set of data. So we do comma, data equals ships, and this is quite a common construct in a large number of functions, especially modeling functions within R, so that rather than having to use this ships $ and the name of the column, we can do things a lot more straightforwardly by specifying a default data frame in which to look. So if we run this function, we see that we get very similar output, except for now we've got a title specifying which variable has been looked at. So how do we go and create that second table? or we simply add a plus year into the previous statement, and now we get this two-way table. So let's say we're interested in building into this the period of service as a third column. In this case, we would simply just add that on to the end of our formula. We run that, and now we see we get a cross tabulation of year against type of ship for each of the two periods of operation in the dataset.